Good afternoon. The Senate Committee on Natural Resources will now come to order. Members and presenters, please remember to mute your microphone when you are not speaking. Will our secretary please proceed to call the roll?
Senator Brooks,
Here.
Senator Goycochea,
Here.
Senator Hansen,
Here.
Senator Scheibel,
Here.
Chair Donate.
And I am here. Thank you. Welcome everyone to the Senate Committee on Natural Resources. Now, for anyone who has not participated in these virtual legislative meetings yet, I will quickly explain how virtual committee meetings are being conducted for the 2021 session. As you know, the legislative building is closed to the public, so all committee meetings will be held virtually, meaning that committee staff, members, and everyone else will either participate through Zoom, video conference, or by telephone. However, there are various ways that members of the public can engage with us and participate throughout this process. As in previous sessions, all committee-related information is available on the Nevada Electronic Legislative Information System, or NELIS, which is accessible from the legislature's website. There are four main ways that you can engage with this committee. First, by registering to participate in a committee meeting through the NELIS system, which places you in line to testify on a bill or provide public comment during the meeting. You can also submit written testimony to the committee's email address, share your opinion via the legislature's opinion application on NELIS, and view committee meetings online through NELIS or on the legislature's YouTube channel. To testify on a bill or provide public comment during the 2021 legislative session, members of the public must first register for the meeting that you would like to participate in. Committee meetings are listed in several places on NELIS. To register, simply click the participate button near the meeting date and time. Then fill in the required information such as your name, the agenda item that you're participating in, and your position on the bill. Once that registration is submitted, you will receive a confirmation screen, but just as a note that while registration is required to participate, it does not guarantee you a spot to speak. When you are on the phone line, please pay attention to the directions and verbal prompts provided by Broadcast and Production Services, and BPS will call on you by the last three digits of your phone number. If you need help or run into any issues, detailed instructions for participating in committee meetings are listed on the help page, which is linked in the banner at the top of every page on NELIS. And if you ever need any assistance from us, or if you'd like to receive an electronic notification of the committee's agendas and minutes, please feel free to contact our committee manager at the committee email listed on the agenda. Today, the committee will be hearing 5 bills in the following order: SB 400, SB 404, SB 406, SB 407, and SB 370. We have a big and lengthy day, so let's go ahead and get started. Senate Bill 400. So I'm going to open the hearing on Senate Bill 400. This measure revises provisions and makes various changes to certain unlawful acts relating to consumer protection. I believe we have Ms. Cadence Matevich, I'm sorry if I butchered that, Administrator for the Division of Consumer Equitability from the State Department of Agriculture, who is on the Zoom to present SB 400. So please proceed.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairman Donate and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Cadence Matevich, and I have the privilege of serving as Administrator for the Division of Consumer Equitability at the Department of Agriculture. Thank you for the opportunity to present Senate Bill 400 to you this afternoon. One of the Department of Agriculture's strategic plan goals is to modernize our statutory and regulatory framework. Senate Bill 400 is the result of a review of Chapters 581, 582, and 590 of Nevada Revised Statutes. These chapters govern weights and measures, public waymasters, petroleum products, and advertisements of motor vehicle fuel and petroleum products. The chapters grant authority to the Department of Agriculture to establish certain standards and regulations to ensure equity in Nevada's commercial marketplace and to provide protections for consumers of petroleum products and products that are purchased on the basis of weight or measure. During our review of these statutes, we identified that there was not uniformity in the criminal penalties for violation of these chapters, and that the authority for the State Sealer of Consumer Equitability to establish civil penalties for violations of NRS Chapter 590 does not currently include all of the portions of the chapter the department is charged with enforcing. We found that the existing criminal penalties did not provide any allowance for unintentional violations, nor do they allow for issuance of a warning prior to the imposition of criminal penalties. While we feel it is necessary to hold people who violate these statutes accountable, we also believe that the imposition of a criminal penalty for a first violation of these laws may be too severe a punishment. Conversely, we believe that serious penalties are appropriate for those who repeatedly violate these statutes. This bill is intended to address the items identified in our review by providing uniformity in the penalties for violations of NRS chapters 581, 582, and the portions of chapter 590 that are within the authority of the Department of Agriculture, by specifying that violations for which criminal penalties will be assessed must be willful, by eliminating the gross misdemeanor penalty for a first violation, and by authorizing the State Sealer of Consumer Equitability to establish a schedule of civil penalties for violations of NRS 590.010 to 590.150 inclusive. I would also note that we believe this bill aligns with the recommendation number 3 from Legislative Audit 20-08 that the Division of Consumer Equitability establish a graduated and equitable system of sanctions for violations of the laws and regulations it's charged with enforcing. Mr. Chairman, the Legislative Council's digest does an excellent job of summarizing the various sections of the bill. And so in the interest of time, I'll refrain from providing a section by section summary of the bill that would be duplicative of the digest. However, if there are specific sections that you would like me to provide more detail on, I'd be glad to do so. Again, thank you for the opportunity to present Senate Bill 400 to your committee today.
Thank you so much for that presentation. Any questions from any of the committee members? Senator Goycochea.
Mr. Chair, and Cadence, I just looking at the bill, it says here, if you're convicted 3 times in a 2-year period, does that mean then if you're found in offense 1, 2, or 3, you have every 3 years that's washed off or washed away? I'm just curious, how many shots, bites at the apple do you get?
Mr. Chairman, through you to Senator Goycochea, Cadence Matievich, for the record. Senator, it certainly, what we're attempting to do here is provide a graduated penalty structure for these. And at the point that a person, officer, agent, or employee has been convicted, as you said, for those subsequent offenses over that period would be when that most severe penalty would come into place. And so it would have to be the multiple offenses in that period. I would defer to your legal counsel as to how that time period tolls. That if it's a rolling 3-year period or if it would be in the time in between those convictions. I will admit I'm not a criminal justice expert by any means, and would defer to your legal staff for confirmation on how that 3-year time or 2-year time period tolls.
And maybe, Mr. Chair, I could be a little clearer on it. I just want to know if you've been issued a warning for the first offense, and then the second offense, how long is it before it's considered a second offense, or do you got a clean slate, or when is it the third? And or clearly it is spelled out, if you're convicted 3 times, you're in real trouble. So if you just maybe clean that up for me, Alan.
Thank you for the question, Senator. Through you, Mr. Chairman, Cadence Matievich, for the record. I don't believe that there is any sort of limitation in time period between certain offenses. It would be for each instance of violation. After that warning, if there were another violation the following day, the following week, the following month, that the department division inspectors or our law enforcement agents were to cite for, if we found that, then I don't believe that there's any limitation on us enforcing the provisions of the statute based on time.
Okay, thank you. If it was 1 day or 1 year, it wouldn't make any difference. It would be a second offense. Thank you, Cadence.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Ms. Matijevic. Our legal counsel, Alan Amber, did you want to weigh in, or are we good to proceed?
Thank you, Chair Donate. Alan Amber for the record. I think Ms. Matijevic addressed it fairly well. I do want to point out, though, that it is just for a 2-year period. And so if there are 3 offenses under those subsections 1 in that 2-year period, then that higher penalty would apply. So it doesn't matter if it was a warning and then a misdemeanor or something like that. It just has to be those 3 offenses in that 2-year period.
Thank you, sir, for the clarification. Senator Hansen.
Thanks, Chair. Couple of quick questions. How common is this? In my mind, I'm picturing like a gas station, and for every gallon of gas they charge for, they only give you, 7/8 of a gallon or something like that. How much of a problem is it? Would be question 1. And question 2 is, normally with something like this in law, it's based on the dollar amount. Okay, so some guy cheats me out of $5 worth of gasoline, but then the same individual cheats 10,000 customers out of $5 worth of gasoline. The penalty normally would grow with the degree of severity of the act. But it seems like in this, it's kind of like it's all or nothing. If you steal a gallon of gas or you steal 10,000 gallons of gas, you kind of end up with the same penalty. Is my understanding off on that?
Mr. Chairman, through you to Senator Hansen, Cadence Matijevic for the record. Senator, thank you for the question. The 2 questions. I'll try to answer your first question first, and that has to do with how common violations of these chapters is. I would say we do find on a fairly regular basis violations of these chapters. The vast majority of those are unintentional violations. Someone just wasn't aware of a requirement or didn't realize that perhaps their scale or meter was out of tolerance. And so we find those, and again, in the vast majority of the cases, we find that the individual in violation very much wants to come into compliance, and we work through a process where we just gain compliance. Our civil penalties also allow for a warning in the case of unintentional violations. Occasionally, we do find bad actors, if you will, that are indeed intending to defraud their customers. We've had some cases where we've worked with local law enforcement agencies, particularly Metro in Clark County, on a ring of criminals that were stealing fuel by using stolen credit cards and then selling that fuel at an off-site location. So we do occasionally find it. And those are the instances where we would say, that we really feel like having serious penalties are important. But the vast majority of the violations are not willful and are resolved very quickly with compliance efforts on the part of our inspectors, and the business owners come into compliance quite quickly. To your question about sort of escalating penalties, I would note that it is, while you're correct, that in each of these cases, a warning is the warning, and then we move into the misdemeanor. There is some discretion in the amount of the financial penalty that can be applied, from $1,000 to $5,000. And then moving on to that would be a gross misdemeanor. So again, it's escalating as we're finding repeat offenses, but there is not something here that is specific to the monetary value that's attributed to the violation.
Okay, well, I assume this also still has a certain amount of prosecutorial discretion on the part of the local district attorney. I mean, this is not the only possible avenue that somebody who's breaking this law could be prosecuted in those egregious cases that you cited. So, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Hansen. Do we have any other questions before we proceed? I don't think I see none. All right. Thank you, Ms. Matievich, for that presentation. Let's go ahead and proceed with testimony. As a reminder, we will be limiting all testifiers to 2 minutes each. Testifiers are encouraged to summarize their positions and submit more comprehensive testimony in writing. Just as a reminder that considering we do have a lot of bills, I will be cutting you off as soon as you hit the 2-minute mark. So please try to condense your remarks. And if you want to submit anything else, we're more than willing to read it. BPS, is there anyone on the line wishing to provide support testimony for SB 400 at this time?
Thank you so much, Chair. To testify in support on Senate Bill 400, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Once again, we are currently on support testimony on Senate Bill 400. If you have recently joined the call and would like to testify in support, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in support at this time.
Thank you. BPS, is there anyone wishing to provide testimony in opposition to SB 400?
Thank you so much, Chair. To testify in opposition on Senate Bill 400, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Once again, we are currently in opposition testimony on Senate Bill 400. If you have recently joined the call and would like to testify in opposition, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you, BPS. Finally, is there anyone wishing to testify in neutral on SB 400?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chair. To testify in neutral on Senate Bill 400, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Once again, we are currently in neutral testimony on Senate Bill 400. If you have recently joined the call and would like to testify in neutral, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in neutral at this time.
Thank you, BPS. Ms. Matievich, do you have any last-minute remarks before we close?
I do not. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. I think we're good to go. And I'll go ahead and close the hearing on SB 400. So thank you again for presenting today. Again, the committee will not be taking any action on SB 400 today, but it may bring it back for a future work session. Okay, let's keep going. Senate Bill 404. I will go ahead and open the hearing on Senate Bill 404. This measure revises provisions governing cannabis. I believe we have Ms. Cadence Matievich, Administrator, Division, Consumer Equitability, State Department of Agriculture, who is on the Zoom to also present on SB 404.
Good afternoon, Chairman Donate and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Cadence Matievich, Administrator for the Division of Consumer Equitability at the Department of Agriculture. Thank you for the opportunity to present Senate Bill 404 to you today. This bill seeks to resolve what has been an ongoing issue over the last several years regarding licensing, inspection, and testing of weighing and measuring devices used in cannabis establishments in Nevada. Existing law requires that all weighing and measuring devices used for a commercial purpose in Nevada be licensed as commercial weighing and measuring equipment and charges the state sealer of consumer equitability with the duty to inspect and test all licensed commercial weighing and measuring equipment. NRS 581.0025 defines commercial weighing and measuring equipment to mean weights and measures, and weighing and measuring devices used commercially in 1, establishing the size, quantity, extent, area, or measurement of quantities, things, produce, or articles for distribution or consumption, purchase, offer, or submission for sale, hire, or award, or 2, computing any basic charge or payment for services rendered on the basis of weight or measure. Many of the weighing and measuring devices currently in use in cannabis establishments clearly meet the definition of commercial weighing and measuring equipment. Those devices are currently licensed by the Division of Consumer Equitability and are routinely inspected and tested by our weights and measures inspectors. This bill seeks to address licensing, inspection, and testing of those weighing and measuring devices used in cannabis establishments which do not meet the definition of commercial weighing and measuring equipment. These devices are typically used for the purpose of inventory management to comply with certain regulations of the Nevada Cannabis Compliance Board. While the State Sealer of Consumer Equitability may not necessarily have an interest in ensuring devices used for these inventory management purposes are suitable for their intended use, properly installed, maintained, and accurate, the Nevada Cannabis Compliance Board and other local government entities appear to have a keen interest in doing so. That interest has created confusion for many cannabis establishment operators as they have received conflicting direction from enforcement personnel at those other agencies as to which of their devices are and are not considered to be used for commercial purposes and therefore subject to licensing, testing, and inspection by the Division of Consumer Equitability. The Division of Consumer Equitability has held educational sessions to try to address this confusion and conflicting direction, but have found that with staff turnover both in industry and at the regulatory agencies, this continues to be an issue. Many cannabis establishment operators will, out of an abundance of caution, request that the Division of Consumer Equitability perform special inspection and testing of their non-commercial devices, just to have something to present to enforcement personnel from other agencies to try to demonstrate their compliance efforts. It's worth noting that the Division of Consumer Equitability's fees for inspection of non-commercial devices are higher than the annual license fee for commercial devices. While this bill would increase the number of devices which are subject to licensing and therefore the number of devices subject to licensing fees, we believe that overall the cost to industry related to inspection and testing of weighing and measuring devices may actually go down if this bill were to be passed. This is because cannabis establishments would no longer feel the need to request special inspection of devices under our non-commercial fee schedule. Additionally, they could avoid paying trips for which they are currently subject to special trips for inspection when they begin using a non-commercial device for a commercial purpose. Admittedly, this bill would also provide benefit for the Division of Consumer Equitability, as we believe it will reduce the number of repeat trips to cannabis establishments to inspect devices based on changing commercial or non-commercial use designations. Mr. Chairman, I believe the language in the bill is straightforward, and so unless you would prefer that I do so, I don't intend to walk through each individual section of the bill. I will note that in the past day, I've been contacted by industry representatives who are concerned about applicability of this bill to weighing and measuring devices used in cannabis testing facilities. Cannabis Compliance Board regulations require cannabis testing facilities to obtain accreditation pursuant to standard ISO IEC 17025 of the International Organization for Standardization within 1 year after licensure. As a component of that accreditation process, the facilities would need to demonstrate to the accrediting body, that the weighing and measuring devices used in their facility are accurate and meet the specifications set forth by the National Institute of Standards and Technology. This would make inspection and testing of those devices by the Division of Consumer Equitability somewhat duplicative. While I don't have an amendment prepared to address this concern, the Department of Agriculture would consider such an amendment to be friendly. If the committee is open to such amendment, we would be willing to work with industry to prepare language to address their concern. Mr. Chairman, this concludes my presentation. Thank you again for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Ms. Matievich. Do we have any questions from the committee members at this time? I don't think I see any questions. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and proceed with testimony. As a reminder, we will be limiting all testifiers to 2 minutes each. Testifiers are encouraged to summarize their positions and submit more comprehensive testimony in writing. BPS, is there anyone on the line wishing to provide support testimony for SB 404?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To testify in support on Senate Bill 404, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Once again, we are currently on support testimony on Senate Bill 404. If you have recently joined the call and would like to testify in support, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in support at this time.
Thank you so much, BPS. Next, is there anyone wishing to provide testimony in opposition?
Thank you, Chair. To testify in opposition on Senate Bill 404, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Once again, we are on opposition testimony on Senate Bill 404. If you have recently joined the call and would like to testify in opposition, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you so much, BPS. Finally, is there anyone wishing to testify in neutral on SB 404?
Thank you, Chair. To testify in neutral on Senate Bill 404, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Once again, we are on neutral testimony on Senate Bill 404. If you have recently joined the call and would like to testify in neutral, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in neutral at this time.
All right. Ms. Matievich, I just have one clarification. Can you please explain to us why this requires a 2/3 majority for vote? I just want to make sure that we have that on the record. And if we need help from our legal counsel, Alan Amber, he can chime in as well. But I just wanted to ask that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My understanding is that the 2/3 majority vote is because this bill would impose a fee on a new group of devices that are not currently subject to that fee. That fee for annual licensure of commercial weighing and measuring equipment, and the same fee that would be imposed for this is $35 a year.
Okay. Thank you so much. Do you have any closing remarks before we end the hearing?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't. As I'd indicated, I had been contacted by industry with some concern about that provision relating to the testing facilities, and we are open to working out an amendment. I understand we're very close to deadline day, and so I will leave that to you to provide further instruction if that's something that the committee is interested in seeing, and would await that from you. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I will have our legal counsel, Alan Amber, follow up with you with that, but I would like to address that. So thank you for making that clear. All right, I will go ahead and now close the hearing on SB 404. Again, we will not be taking action on that today, but we may bring it back for a future work session. Okay, next one up, Senate Bill 406. I'm going to go ahead and open the hearing on Senate Bill 406. This measure revises provisions relating to wildlife. I believe we have Director Wolseley, the Director of Department of Wildlife and Jake Robb, Deputy Director of the department, who are on the Zoom today to present on SB 406. So please proceed when you both are ready.
Thank you, Chair Donate. For the record, Tony Wassley, Director, Department of Wildlife. Senate Bill 406 revises provisions relating to wildlife, specifically revises provisions governing the Wildlife Trust Fund, authorizes a tag to be in an electronic format under certain circumstances, and revises the requirements for an annual resident specialty combination hunting and fishing license. From the Legislative Council's Digest, Section 1 and 7 of this bill exempt private money accepted by the department for deposit into the Wildlife Trust Fund from the requirements of existing law for the acceptance of gifts by a state agency. Section 1 also requires the director of the department or the director's designee to submit an annual report to the Interim Finance Committee that sets forth the private money accepted into the Wildlife Trust Fund and the investment and expenditure of the money in the fund from the previous fiscal year. Section 4 of the bill provides that the department may designate a paper or electronic form of a tag. Section 3 provides that an electronic tag must be validated before the holder of the tag transports the species of wildlife. And sections 2 and 5 of the bill make conforming changes relating to electronic tags and validating electronic tags. The third item addressed in the bill is that existing law requires the department to issue an annual resident specialty combination hunting and fishing license to any person 65 years of age or older who has continuously resided in this state for a period of 5 years immediately preceding the date of the application for the license. Section 6 of the bill removes the requirement that such a person have continuously resided in the state for 5 years immediately preceding the date of that application. So, Mr. Chair, committee members, what I'd like to do is to explain with a little bit more depth into the first item contained in sections 1 through 7, exempting private money accepted by the department.
Director Walsley, I'm so sorry to interrupt. I have to present on another bill, so I'm going to transfer the gavel right now to our Vice Chair Scheibel, who will continue the conversation, but please proceed. I just wanted to put that on the record.
Thank you, Senator. So I'd like to begin by explaining the first act in this covered in sections 1 through 7 pertaining to acceptance of gifts by a state agency, and then turn it over to Deputy Director Jack Robb to explain item 2 as it pertains to the creation and issuance of electronic tags, and section 3 that speaks to the requirements of residency requirements for eligibility on senior licenses. So for a quick and brief history, in the 2011 legislative session, AB 525 was passed that created the Wildlife Trust Fund account. That was created as a non-executive account. The primary focus and intent was to be able to leverage partner interest in expanding ongoing efforts by the department. 2012 was the first fiscal year in which this account was in service. We have seen continued interest and use in this account. In the current fiscal year, we have accepted approximately upwards of $2 million in donations. Those donations come from industry partners, non-governmental organizations, and as stated, really just an opportunity for us to leverage partner interest in expanding ongoing efforts. Many of those activities include the purchase of seed for post-fire revegetation, the removal of unsuitable habitat or habitat enhancement projects, and just by way of example, Endow's wildfire restoration total It's 422,240 acres in the last 5 years. And this success was due to a broad coalition of over 15 different partnering entities that helped to generate over $8 million of support in that time. So really couldn't have been accomplished without the dedicated sportsmen and non-governmental organizations, private landowners, industry partners, the Board of Wildlife Commissioners, and federal and state agency partners. But much of that partnership, referencing industry, has come through since the establishment and creation of this Wildlife Trust Fund account. The intent when it was created in 2011, as a testimony will show, was to create a non-executive account that would benefit from many of the same exemptions that presently in the Nevada system of higher education, health and human services, and tourism and cultural affairs enjoy, as far as the exemption from IFC approval for the exception of those acceptance of those donated funds. Many times, as in the instance of post-fire revegetation, it's a unpredictable, quick response, and we're able to leverage industry and NGO partner funds to improve our effectiveness in responding to some of those catastrophic opportunities, if you will. So specifically, the language in sections 1 through 7 adds that the provisions of NRS 353.335 do not apply to any gift, donation, bequest, device, or grant from any private source accepted pursuant to this subsection. This would achieve the same exemption that is currently afforded Nevada System of Higher Education, Department of Health and Human Services in certain applications, and the Department of Tourism and Cultural Affairs. It also adds that on or before September 30th of each year, that the department director or the director's designee would submit a report to the director of the Legislative Counsel Bureau for transmittal to the Interim Finance Committee, setting forth for the previous fiscal year the amount of gifts, donations, bequests, devices, and grants from any private source that were deposited into the Wildlife Trust Fund, and also the investment and expenditure of money in the Wildlife Trust Fund would also require the posting of the report submitted on an internet website maintained by the department. That concludes the background and explanation on the first portion of the bill. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to Deputy Director Jack Robb to speak to the electronic tag and the residency requirement for the senior license.
Madam Vice Chair?
Yes, Senator Hansen.
Before we leave that and go to Mr. Robb, could we ask some questions on this first part before we dilute the conversation, or do you want to wait?
I'd rather get through the presentation. Let's
Okay.
go to Mr. Robb next.
Thank you, Vice Chair Scheibel. Jack Robb, Deputy Director, Nevada Department of Wildlife, for the record. As Director Wadsley explained, the second part of the bill is concerning an update, a modernization, a simplification for the individuals that apply and obtain big game tags in the state of Nevada. This is coming out as an option. It will not be mandatory that people get an electronic tag. We believe it'll be a phased in over time that people will convert to electronic tags. Some of the advantages of having an electronic tag is this year we're going to go to a first come, first serve auction for individuals getting big game tags that are returned within the 14-day window right prior to the season. If we have an electronic tag option, they will be able to receive an electronic tag to get in the field without having to come by an NDL office to pick up their tag or wait for one to arrive in the mail. Another advantage that the department sees with electronic tag is there will be real-time data received. The electronic tag will be in an app format. So if you're out of cell phone coverage, when you do harvest an animal, you fill out the information on your smart device, and if you're out of cell phone range, it'll automatically save. And then when you return into coverage, it'll save and send. If you're in coverage, when you fill it out, it'll take down the pertinent information of location of harvest, date, time, and all the pertinent information we currently ask the customers to fill out on their return cards after arriving home. We do have a return card issue with individuals not getting their return cards completed. It is mandatory if you have a big game tag in the state of Nevada to fill out a return card. And every year we send out reminders monthly throughout the big game process and seasons. So from September through December, we're sending out reminders constantly on the return card requirement. And then when we hit January, the end of January is the deadline on return cards. We send out 4 or 5 emails then, and then we send out a couple text messages to remind individuals to get their big game return cards in, indicating location of harvest, if they did harvest, number of days in the field, all kinds of pertinent information that we rely on for data to make informed decisions going forward. So this is something that we believe will benefit both the customer and the agency going forward, and it's a continuation of our simplification process we've started years ago through the legislative process and with the Wildlife Commission. The next item on page 6 of the bill in front of you is just a strikeout of continuously for a 5-year period. That is the only place that we have that residence requirement for seniors to get a reduced license. Every other requirement for residency is 6 months, whether applying for big game or buying any other type of tag or license. To get a reduced senior license right now, you have to be a resident in the state for 5 years. It causes confusion at our front counters when people buy licenses online. It causes inadvertent errors in the field that our game wardens come across people that have resided in the state for maybe 2 years, and our wardens will contact them in the field, and the individuals will indicate, well, I moved here 2 years ago and I'm just still trying to figure out where to fish, and they look down and they've got a resident license. They didn't meet that 5-year requirement, and it causes situations the field we're trying to avoid. And there's an unmeasured portion that we can't put our finger on. But we have found in our licensing, when it comes to financial transactions, that less is more. The fewer dollars we charge, the better participation we get. This for people that resided for 6 months and less than 5 years, it would take an $80 fishing license down to a $15 senior license. We can't measure the lost opportunity we have when it comes to people that looked at the price of an $80 license and then did not participate in that activity. We believe a $15 price range is a range that it won't be a deterrent to participation. And with those reduced rates that we've done on the senior licenses and the junior licenses through our prior simplification, we've seen tremendous growth in those areas. And with that growth, we get more Pittman Robinson and Dingle Johnson funds that are dedicated to license certifications. The more certified hunters and anglers we can get in the state of Nevada qualifies us for more federal match to the PR and DJ funds. So that is what we're trying to attempt with taking away the requirement of 5 years. And with that, that concludes my presentation.
All right, thank you so much. Mr. Wasley, is there anybody else here to present this bill with you?
No, Vice Chair Scheibel. That's all we have in presenting this bill today. Thank you.
Perfect. Then we will move on to questions for Mr. Wasley and Mr. Robb. I see Senator Hansen has one. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Question I've got is, well, first of all, I had LCB a while back actually research the whole Wildlife Trust Fund thing. And while the director mentioned there are several other types of agencies that have similar ones, the fact is that according to LCB, this is the only one where the director himself has total authority. So the provisions of NRS 353-335 actually require any private monies like this to be given some level of legislative oversight. Why do you guys now see that, that you need to remove that so that you have literally, right now you have almost complete discretion with just this little bit of IFC or legislative oversight? Why are you anxious to get rid of that?
Thank you for the question, Senator Hansen, Vice Chair, through you to the Senator. This isn't about trying to get rid of oversight, as you phrase that, Senator Hansen. This is about trying to be as efficient with partners' money and trying to avoid steps of the process that maybe don't have the same efficacy that private industry enjoys. And if we have the opportunity to leverage those partnerships and that interest in expanding ongoing efforts through those partners and through those NGOs, we want to do everything we can to welcome that, because it's a huge benefit to the state. It's a huge benefit to the agency. So I would say that most definitely this has nothing to do with the department trying to avoid oversight, as you put it, Senator. This has everything to do with the Department of Wildlife desiring to be as effective as possible and leveraging to the maximum extent the interest that many of our partners share in our mission and charge.
Well, I can appreciate that, but I would definitely say you already have, from any private source, the discretion of the director, and at the discretion of the director twice in law, the ability to essentially spend that money any way you want from private sources. It's a very, very unusual account. And I think actually we're looking at this backwards. I think we should be expanding the amount of oversight of private dollars that are being expended through that wildlife heritage account, or excuse me, wildlife trust fund. I think, Madam Chair, with all due respect, I think this bill's going backwards. We should be expanding the amount of oversight of private dollars going into a state agency and then being expended almost at the complete discretion of one individual. Thank you, Madam Chair.
See the day that Senator Hansen wanted to expand government oversight. But, you know, strange things happen in natural resources. The reason I was butting in was that I did want to confirm that I'm reading this correctly. They are still required to submit a report to IFC, correct?
Yes.
Is that for me, Madam Chair? If it is, yes, they still do. But that's after they spent the money.
No, not for you. I wanted to make sure for myself. I completely understand that it doesn't address your concerns, but I wanted to make sure that that was part of the bill.
Madam Vice Chair,
yes.
If I might add some clarification, I think that LCB's interpretation and certainly the application of this account is different than as was characterized by Senator Hansen. The department, despite the characterization that it's at the discretion of the director, must conform to direction provided by the donating party. Each donation is accompanied by instruction outlining eligible expenditures. If those expenditures are unlawful or inconsistent with the agency's mission or charge, then those donations have been denied, and they must be spent in accordance with the instructions and guidance. Also, regardless of whether they are private monies or not, anything of $20,000 or greater is currently subject to IFC approval for acceptance and expenditure. And it is some of that cumbersome nature of trying to invite and encourage industry partners, NGO partners, to assist in leveraging, again, their interest and ongoing efforts to the betterment of Nevada's wildlife that we're seeking to streamline and simplify.
Thank you. I saw a question from Senator Goycochea. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. Walsley. I do agree this is a step in the right direction. I know exactly where you're headed with the Wildlife Trust account. Unfortunately, I think we've got it, like you say, wrapped up and confused with other pieces of the budget. You've got 5 non-executive budget accounts that technically are under your discretion and or the Wildlife Commission or a combination thereof. And I think that's where we're getting this muddied up and really confused. Yeah, I understand exactly where you're coming from. Private sector wants to make a donation. Maybe not all of it, and if it's over 20,000, you have to show where, in fact, that you did accept it and where it's to go. But I can understand the desire by private sector for some scrutiny, and I think it's a step in the right direction. However, you know, I've had conversations, and we all have. I am concerned about some of the. Again, we're talking private money, but when we talk about the Silver State Tag money and these other non-executive accounts and how they're being expended, I think that's where myself and Mr. Senator Hansen are looking at maybe a little more oversight there or a little more clarity.
Madam Vice Chair, if I might, just providing one clarification to Senator Goicoechea. The Silver State Tag money goes into the Heritage account as a separate account. It is an account that the Wildlife Commission has the authority over, that is not a department account. So there are the 9 members, gubernatorial appointees that have the discretionary authority. There's a process by which the department, as well as private citizens or industry partners or NGOs, submit project proposals, and then the Wildlife Commission, those 9 members, evaluate those projects and determine expenditures accordingly.
Yes, I thank you, Madam Chair. If I might, with a quick follow-up, and I'll try and keep it brief. But I think that's exactly where does that? Who does the Wildlife Commission report to, and those expenditures, and how that money comes in? And again, I think some of the confusion or some of the concerns I have is, you know, I talk to Wildlife Commission members and don't have a clue where some of this went. I know you've got different subcommittees, but again, we're talking about the 9-member oversight, and this has been an ongoing dialogue, I understand.
All right, thank you. I have one question that I finally get to be the person who vaguely remembers talking about this before, to ask about the 5-year residency requirement for senior permit holders. I could have sworn we talked about this last year. Did we decide not to do it? Was this for a different license, or was it just a conversation and not a bill?
Thank you for the question, Vice Chair Scheibel. This is Jack Robb, Deputy Director of Nevada Department of Wildlife, for the record. It was something that we've talked about in the past. We should have handled it during license simplification, and it was an oversight at that time. And we're trying to correct it at this point and make it easier to participate in wildlife activities in Nevada.
All right, thank you. With that, I don't see any other questions. So we will go to testimony in support of SB 406.
Thank you, Vice Chair. To testify in support on Senate Bill 406, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits, 215, please press star 6 to unmute. Thank you, caller. Caller with the last 3 digits of 215, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
My name is Joel Donaldson, Joeldonalson. Can you confirm that you can hear me?
Yes, thank you, caller. Please proceed with your testimony.
Thank you. As I said, my name is Joel Donaldson. I represent Nevada Gold Mines, LLC. I'm the head of permitting, ranches, and land. Thank you for your time this afternoon. I'd like to speak in support of sections 1 and 7 of SB 406, which allow the Department of Wildlife to accept and use gifts, donations, bequests, and grants in a timely manner. While Nevada Gold Mines' main business is mining, we also own cattle ranches in eastern Nevada and engage in large-scale conservation efforts, especially for sage grouse and mule deer habitat restoration. When we face an event like a wildfire, we work closely with the Department of Wildlife and other agencies to respond quickly to protect rangeland ecosystems. In these situations and in others, we've supported the Department of Wildlife's response efforts through donations made to the Wildlife Trust Fund. Given the unforeseen nature of these occurrences, it is very important that rehabilitation can be completed in a timely manner to achieve maximum benefit and even to prevent waste of resources. Additionally, we make these donations to address a specific need to complete a project identified in partnership with the Department of Wildlife. We support allowing the Department of Wildlife the flexibility to direct these funds as need arises, and also to ensure transparency and accountability for how these monies are used. We are neutral on the remaining sections of the bill. Thank you for your consideration.
Once again, we are currently on support testimony on Senate Bill 406. If you have recently joined the call and would like to testify in support, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no additional callers in support at this time.
Okay, thank you. We will now take testimony in opposition to SB 406.
Thank you, Vice Chair. To testify in opposition on Senate Bill 406, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Once again, we are currently on opposition testimony on Senate Bill 406. If you have recently joined the call and would like to testify in opposition, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. There are no callers in opposition at this time.
All right. We will take testimony in the neutral position on SB 406.
Thank you, Vice Chair. To testify in neutral on Senate Bill 406, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits of 092. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Hi, my name is Tiffany East, Tiffany Good afternoon, Vice Chair Scheibel and Senators. For the record, my name is Tiffany East, and I'm the Chairwoman of the Nevada Board of Wildlife Commissioners. My testimony today will serve as background as the Commission has not yet had the chance to meet and determine a position on SB 406. As you know, Nevada is the most arid state in the country. Last fall, we experienced an unprecedented water shortage, causing a number of our big game guzzlers to go dry multiple times. This left our wildlife, who were dependent upon these sources, with no alternative. We are blessed to have outstanding relationships with many of our sportsmen's organizations who donated $125,000 toward the approximately $350,000 to pay for water hauls. The Wildlife Trust Fund provided a secure tool for the Nevada Department of Wildlife in which to deposit these funds and gifts in an emergency situation. This is just one example of the benefit the Wildlife Trust Fund provides. It's important that these funds are available on an emergency basis. Commission Policy Number 1 prescribes that the Commission has guidance over monies which are deposited in the wildlife account, as well as over any programs developed for wildlife management activity providing oversight. The Commission receives these reports twice per year. SB 406 also removes the 5-year residency requirement for a senior 65 years and older, providing an important activity for Nevada citizens of all ages. Commission Policy Number 24 states that the Commission has a duty to provide reasonable hunting opportunities to Nevada citizens, in addition to promoting family and other social, cultural, historic, scenic, and natural connections to the outdoors. And finally, the electronic tags are also addressed in Commission Policy Number 24, stating hunting in Nevada is an important activity for its citizens for many reasons, including but not limited to the values I previously mentioned. As you've heard, electronic tags provide important data for us to make decisions regarding quotas in the coming years. Thank you for your consideration and time today.
Caller with the last three digits, 112. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Vice Chair Scheibel, this is Alan Biaggi with the Nevada Mining Association. I was signed up to support this bill. I'd like to provide testimony now if that is acceptable.
That's fine. Go ahead.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Senate Natural Resources Committee members. My name is Alan Biaggi, A-L-L-E-N, B as in boy, I-A-G-G-I, and I represent the Nevada Mining Association. Thank you for allowing me to provide testimony this afternoon. We are speaking in support of Sections 1 and 7 of SB 406, which will allow the Department of Wildlife to accept gifts, donations, bequests, and grants, and utilize those resources in a timely manner. Subsection 4 of Section 1 will ensure transparency and accountability for how those gifts and donations were used through mandatory reporting provided to the legislature on a yearly basis. NDOW and mining are often partners in restoring land scarred by wildfire, the improvement of sagebrush habitat benefiting sage grouse and other species, and addressing game migration and population enhancements, just to name a few. Often, as in wildfire rehabilitation, time is of the essence in getting seed on the ground to ensure maximum viability and effectiveness. SB 406 will reduce delays and ensure the necessary work for natural resource rehabilitation and protection can be accomplished in a timely fashion. We are neutral on the remaining sections of the bill because they do not pertain to mining. Thank you for your consideration of these comments.
As a reminder, we are currently on neutral testimony on Senate Bill 406. If you have recently in the call and would like to testify in neutral, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no additional callers in neutral at this time.
Thank you so much. Do the presenters have any closing comments?
No, thank you, Vice Chair Scheibel. Just appreciate the opportunity to be here and present this bill before you and the committee members today. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Given that, we will close the hearing on SB 406, and it is my pleasure to open the hearing on SB 407. I think it was meant to be that Chair Donate is buzzing between committees today and unable to be here for this hearing. And with that, I will turn it over to Ms. Brown to give us the presentation.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is Megan Brown, and I'm the Deputy Administrator for the Plant Industry Division for Nevada Department of Agriculture, and I'm here today to present on SB 407. This bill is modifying statute related to apiaries. The Legislative Digest provides a good background on the department's current role regarding apiaries. This bill will only affect those individuals and businesses that have apiaries that do not hold a producer certificate as outlined in NRS 561.128. I'm going to give a little bit of background on the need and where the change came from, and then I'll do some specific overview and background on the bill. The program need is specific as apiaries pose a significant pest intrusion risk that can devastate industry and hive health. When pests are introduced, they can impact the health of the bees and ultimately cause failures in hives. Hives are randomly tested throughout the state through the National Honeybee Survey. Mites and diseases have been found across the state, and it is important that we continue to survey and have a full picture of hive locations to ensure communication and survey work is done completely. Bordering states have apiary registration requirements in place, and having a regulation will help, in Nevada, will help us prevent bees and hives that are discarded from other states and brought into ours. The department receives frequent complaints involving apiary issues, particularly pertaining to poor hive health or poses of other risk to other bees or other neighboring areas. The registration of apiaries would allow the department to notify owners of regional pest issues, issues related to spray notifications, identify pest risk, and take appropriate enforcement actions to protect the industry. Apiaries are regulated through registration and inspection by our bordering states, necessitating appropriate measures needed for Nevada to prevent poor health and/or pest-infected apiaries from being abandoned in the state with less oversight. These potential abandoned hives can help spread disease and can bring new pests into our state. The registration of apiaries would allow the department to notify and communicate with apiary owners of regional pest issues, spray notifications, etc. Without registry, communication is restricted. It is important for the industry and for the department to ensure that communication and information related to these matters can be quickly and efficiently executed. Currently, NDA receives funds from the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Animal and Plant Health to conduct survey work related to disease and pest occurrence. This registration would help those surveys be more effective in protecting the industry and hive health in Nevada and enhance investigations related to industry concerns. The department had a voluntary registration program for apiaries. This voluntary program allowed those with hives to register with the department. This would allow pesticide applicators to get locations of registered hives before spray programs were implemented. This program has been underutilized and therefore ineffective in protecting hive health and impacts. Thank you for the opportunity to present, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Are there any questions from the members of the committee? All right. I'm not seeing any questions. Oh, Senator Brooks.
Thank you, Vice Chair Scheibel. Does this apply to, are these apiaries, do they apply to like hobbyists as well? Is it any beekeeper in the state?
Megan Brown for the record, through the chair to Senator Brooks. Yes, so this would cover all hives that are not currently covered under producer certificates. So yes, that would be backyard hobbyists, et cetera.
Thank you.
Senator Goycochea.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Brown, good to see you again. And I assume it'll come in the regulations, but clearly there's going to be a fee required with this.
Correct, and we will go through that process and evaluate bordering states' regulations and go through that public process to set those. But yes, there will be a fee.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And to follow up on that, is the intention for the fee to be, first of all, the same for different producers? And also, is it going to be per hive or by production? And what I'm getting at is that we do have nonprofit organizations in Nevada that engage in beekeeping and apiaries. I'm wondering if they're going to be charged the same fee that a commercial or a more professional, but a larger operation that's producing honey and selling it out of state would also have to pay, or will there be some delineation between the two different types of registration and fees?
Megan Brown, for the record, thank you for the question. And I obviously will go through that process to determine those. A lot of states have tiered approaches. So, 1 to 10 hives, 10 to et cetera, and sort of having a more tiered approach, which is something that we've looked into, but it's not, we don't have a set, I guess, standard, but those sorts of things would be an option. So appreciate the feedback.
All right, thank you. And I'm not sure if this question would be best answered by you or by our legal counsel, but based on the statute that this falls into, in order to go through that regulatory process, would you be subject to all the 233B standards, would you have to come back before the Ledge Commission, or do you have a different process?
I will defer to LCB for that.
Alan Amburn for the record. Thank you, Vice Chair. As far as I'm aware, all of the processes in 233B of NRS would apply in this situation.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for our presenters on SB 407? Not seeing any, we will go to testimony in support of SB 407.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair. To testify in support on Senate Bill 407, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Once again, we are currently on support testimony on Senate Bill 407. If you have recently joined the call and would like to testify in support, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Vice Chair, there are no callers in support at this time.
Okay, thank you. We will move then to opposition of SB 407.
Thank you, Vice Chair. To testify in opposition on Senate Bill 407, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits, 605. Please press star 6 now to unmute. Caller with the last 3 digits,
Hello.
60. Yes, caller with the last 3 digits, 605. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
My name is James Russell. That's JamesRussell. I'm the president of Northern Nevada Beekeeping Association. I speak for many of our members who are hobby backyard beekeepers, who have a couple of hives in their own backyard. We don't make any money from beekeeping. The main product, of course, is honey, and it's usually given as gifts to friends and family. I got into beekeeping to help save bees and pollinators, something I could do to make a difference in our environment. Northern Nevada Beekeeping Association's mission is to communicate the benefits of bees and pollinators in our local environment. We help people differentiate between bees and wasps, since wasps are responsible for many of the flying insect stings. We also encourage people to plant pollinator gardens. Our organization is doing a great job in helping members monitor hive health, look for the varroa mite, and the various viruses that it spreads. We were requiring registration and fees for backyard beekeepers will cause many hobby beekeepers to stop keeping bees. By the next year, you'll see a decrease in consumer garden yields and the birds that are reliant on bees in their food chain. I can understand having registration and fees for commercial beekeepers. I can even understand having city or town regulations. But requiring registration of backyard hobbyists on a state level seems like government big brother overreach. I'm very skeptical of the underlying intention of this bill and want to point out potential unforeseen negative consequences of its passage. Thank you.
Caller with the last 3 digits of 567. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Emanuela Heller McNeilitz. I am the Vice President of Northern Nevada Beekeepers Association. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I would like to speak against the bill SB 407. I do not have to state the importance of pollination by bees, which makes 80% of our crops, and a significant part of that comes from backyard beekeeping. It is already hard to keep bees. It's very challenging. As Jim Russell stated, we have to treat varroa mites, bring the bees through the winter. We're dealing with death of bees due to pesticides. The club is helping not only backyard beekeepers without product certification to set up their hives. We also have a program for veterans called Bees for Vets. The veterans with PTSD get the opportunity to work with bees, which is very beneficial for them. The club annually donates wax to breast cancer survivors to make special cosmetic products for breast cancer survivors. We educate our members very well about reportable diseases like the American foul brood, and I don't really understand what the purpose of SB 407 would do in terms of disease control, because just from the logistics, it's pretty unrealistic to inspect all hives of hobby beekeepers in Nevada, which takes at least 20 to 30 minutes per hive. This is a lot of time, and also it carries a risk of contamination. You could contract a disease from an inspection like that can be spread from one hive or one apiary to the next. So to summarize, I think this law would only make it more unattractive for beekeepers to keep bees and would lead to a reduction of pollinators. And I think the Northern Nevada Beekeepers Association would be very happy to be in more close contact with the Department of Agriculture to talk about diseases and how to prevent them. But I don't think that this law is the right step in that direction. Thank you for your consideration.
Caller with the last three digits of 485. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
My name is Daniel Fenwick, D-A-N-I-E-L, Fenwick, F-E-N-W-I-C-K. I am the president of Bees for Vets. After looking over this bill, I don't necessarily have an issue with requiring registration of hives. I can understand why the department might want to know where hives are if somebody gets foul brood or something like that and they have to inspect hives in the neighborhood. My problem is that Section 1, which says they'll adopt regulations, is very vague. And Section 3, there is absolutely no limit on the fees that can be charged. This bill could be used as another way to attempt to curtail hobbyist backyard beekeeping in the state of Nevada. That would be detrimental to our students as we work with veterans and first responders who suffer from PTSD and or TBI. When they complete our program, they get to take a hive home and they can maintain that hive in their yard. If they had to pay fees in order to do so, that would be likely to push many of them out of it, as it would many other hobbyist beekeepers. As it is now, hives in my backyard pollinate gardens for everybody in a fairly decent radius around me. If my hives went away, then those gardens would not be pollinated, which means people's crop yield out of their gardens would drop dramatically. So that would be harmful to the neighborhood in general, and this bill could be harmful to our students. I would suggest that a limit on the fees should be included in the bill if the bill is passed, and that Section 1 should be made somewhat less vague as to who it's requiring to register and for what purpose. The only other thing is that any information from registrations should be kept expressly confidential. There is a large problem nationally with vandalism of beehives and theft of beehives. If that database is public, then that information could be used for people to find hives to steal or teenagers to vandalize hives, that sort of thing. So that data needs to be protected, and that should also be in statute and not rely on good intention.
Caller with the last three digits of 675. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin. Caller 675, you are unmuted. Please proceed with your testimony.
Thank you. Rebecca Stetson for the record, Stetson. Thank you, Committee on Natural Resources, for allowing me to testify today. I did want to testify in opposition of this bill. I agree with the previous callers that this bill compromises biosecurity of bees by allowing one person to do inspections of many different sites. And I also agree that a registration fee would make backyard beekeepers, that it would make it more difficult for them to get involved. I think that a fee could work really well if we were assessing it to commercial beekeepers. And I think it would be really neat to see even a portion of that fee to then go into educating backyard beekeepers along with the amazing organizations that are currently doing that work. I think that about states it. Yeah, bees are super important. I've had them for the last 12 or 13 years to increase the production of the organic farms that I run that are nonprofits. And I can say personally that an additional registration fee as a nonprofit would maybe not deter me completely, but I think that it is something that could prohibit others from doing so. Thank you.
As a reminder, we are currently in opposition testimony on Senate Bill 407. If you have recently joined the call and would like to testify in opposition, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Vice Chair, there are no additional callers in opposition at this time.
All right, thank you so much. We will now take testimony in the neutral position on SB 407.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair. To testify in neutral on Senate Bill 407, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. As a reminder, we are currently in neutral testimony on 407, Senate Bill 407. If you have recently joined the call and would like to testify in neutral, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in opposition, in neutral at this time.
Okay, thank you. Do our presenters have any closing remarks or responses?
Thank you. I do, if I may. Megan Brown, for the record, appreciate the time and questions today. And I just want to reiterate that our goal with the registration is to protect bee health and allow proper communication to take place related to spray notifications and help address overall hive health issues impacting bees and apiaries. And we are here to support the industry and bee health. And we will certainly consider the situation of small and or hobbyist beekeepers. And thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much. With that, I will close the hearing on SB 407. I see that our chair has returned, but I am not handing the gavel over only because he now is in the hot seat to present a bill to this committee. And that one moment. That bill is 370. So I will now open up the hearing on SB 370.
Thank you so much, Acting Chair Scheibel. Senator Donate, for the record. Thank you to the committee members for hearing Senate Bill 370 today, and for those who tuned in over the phone and watching the live broadcast online. I represent Senate District 10 in Clark County, and as the chair of the Senate Committee on Natural Resources, it is my pleasure to introduce SB 370, which was requested by the committee. This bill comes at a timely period as we continue to respond to the public health crisis and find innovative ways for economic recovery. The intent of SB 370 is to help supplement food security opportunities in Nevada. This bill authorizes the State Department of Agriculture to purchase nutritious foods grown, raised, produced, and processed in Nevada for the purpose of distribution to food insecure individuals experiencing hunger. This bill provides an economic stimulus and helps our local farming industry. Food banks will work with the State Department of Agriculture to make this locally procured food available to those who are most in need. Today, we have Three Square Food Bank and the Food Bank of Northern Nevada to provide an explanation of how the current public health crisis has impacted food insecurity rates in Nevada and the decline in federal nutrition assistance programs, such as the Emergency Food Assistance Program, commonly known as TFAP. Three Square is Southern Nevada's only food banks serving 4 counties, and the Food Bank of Northern Nevada serves the remaining 13 northern counties. Both food banks are members of the Feeding America Network, the nation's largest hunger relief organization, consisting of 200 food banks across the country. At this time, Vice Chair Scheibel, I would like to go ahead and turn it over to them. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Shane Piccinini, and I am the Manager of Public Policy and Government Relations for the Food Bank of Northern Nevada. And so it is my pleasure to share with you what exactly SB 370 is going to do. So if you give me 1 second, I will go ahead and start this. So first of all, as the chair just pointed out, Nevada is without a doubt one of the most food insecure states in the country. Currently, there are, just under 400,000 people who are struggling with hunger, and of those, just over 134,000 are children. So to put this into some kind of context we can understand, about 1 in 8 adults are struggling with hunger, and what's worse is that 1 in 5 children are struggling with hunger. And this is not something that we're particularly proud of, but Nevada is tied with Louisiana twice. In 4th place, when it comes to the number of food secure individuals, we are currently sitting at 20%. And in 2019, before the pandemic, we were at 12% when we were ranked 20th. And then right now, Nevada is tied with Louisiana with the highest child food insecurity rates at 32%. In 2019, we were in 9th place at almost 20%. So food security is a problem that touches just about every part of the work that happens in the legislature. So I will do this. There we go. So SB 370 does present an economic opportunity to support agriculture in Nevada as we continue to strengthen Nevada's agricultural commodities or communities. Nevada agriculture has an economic output of $4.71 billion in 2020. Agriculture, which is ranching and farming, is almost $788 million, and food and beverage manufacturing is almost $4 billion. And then, as you can see on the screen right here, here's a list of some of the principal products that are produced or raised in Nevada, everything from spices to cattle, sheep, lamb, flour, fruits, and vegetables. So here's sort of an interesting thing when we talk about the work that the Nevada Department of Agriculture and what the food banks are doing, is that Nevada receives food that is approximately valued at $47 million through the federal entitlement programs. Very little of that is sourced from the state of Nevada. And so this is something that we are looking to change. So I will take this moment really quickly just to walk through what exactly it is that the bill is going to do. And we did have an amendment for the bill. The bill that the Legislative Counsel Bureau crafted for us was amending an existing program, and we did not want to do that. We want to keep the existing programs that the Nevada Department of Agriculture operates exactly as they are. We're asking for a new subchapter within Chapter 561 to create what I'm about to walk you through. So, so the first subsection of the bill would allow the director to establish what we're calling the Home Feeds Nevada Agriculture Food Purchase Program to supplement the supply of nutritious food, which is available to persons through a food bank or other such provider that is identified further down in the bill. Subsection 2 would allow the director to solicit any gift, grant, or donation to the program. Upon receipt of any gift or grant, the donation amount must be deposited into the Home Feeds Nevada Food Purchase Program account. Grants, gifts, or donations deposited in the account must be used in the same manner as the money in the account. Subsection 3 of the bill would require the director to develop a process for which nutritious food that is raised, grown, produced, or processed in the state would be distributed to the food banks. And then the food banks would then be required to distribute that food to through our 140 partner agencies and through the partner agencies of 3 Square, so that the people in need would receive it, and all of that would be at no charge. Subsection 4, upon receiving of the well, that covers it right there. Like the subsection 4, the food bank shall distribute the nutritious food through the emergency food kitchens, food pantries, or homeless shelters. And then subsection 5 would require the department on an annual basis to supply a report to the Governor's Council on Food Security. And also we would require the food banks, 3 Square and the Food Bank of Northern Nevada, to supply the Nevada Department of Agriculture with quarterly reports. So that is essentially what it is that we are asking for in the bill. And so here is our contact information in case you need it. But with that, we would be happy to take any questions that anybody might have. And I want to say that Ashanti Lewis and Alika Newman are also on, from 3 Square, are also on with us, so they can answer Southern Nevada questions.
All right, thank you so much. Looks like we have a question from Senator Hansen. Go ahead.
Thanks, Vice Chair. Did you say you guys are spending $47 million a year currently? Is that the Northern Nevada Food Bank, or is that for the entire state?
Shane Piccinini for the record. Actually, that is money that is spent through the federal entitlement programs, through TFAP and through the senior commodities program. So that isn't necessarily money that comes from the state of Nevada, but it is money that is nevertheless spent on food that is distributed to Nevadans.
Actually, I'm just more curious. How much do we spend in Nevada on these type of programs? I know there are private food banks, and then you guys, and so I'm just out of curiosity, how much? Do you have an estimate of how many dollars we spend on these food programs in Nevada in a normal year?
Well, that is a really good question, and it is a number that I would be happy to research for you, but let me explain a little bit about how this system works. The 2 food banks, 3 Square and the Food Bank of Northern Nevada, each have 501c3 partner agencies who get food from us, but also are able to source food through their own resources. And so the number actually is really high. But I will give you a solid number because, to be honest with you, we have gone through so much food over this last year that I'm afraid that any number I might give you might be too low.
Okay. No, I'm just more curious. I know in the rural areas, you guys are greatly appreciated, especially for some seniors that live in isolated pockets of the state, and been a great program and really a blessing to a lot of people. Last question. If you guys go to kind of where you have to buy Nevada-only products, do you guys estimate how much more? I mean, I assume you buy your food from California or wherever currently. If you buy Nevada produce only, do you anticipate a substantial increase in cost, or is it going to be kind of very similar?
Shane Piccini for the record. So we wouldn't necessarily go into just buying only Nevada foods. What we want to do is to create this program that would allow the Nevada Department of Ag and the food banks to leverage our resources to be able to include Nevada foods into our existing programs. So what we're really looking to do is make sure that the producers and the growers, the ranchers all have an opportunity to participate in, the hunger relief work that's being done in the state of Nevada. So this is a supplement to that. And so as far as the cost is concerned, I think I'll probably let the department speculate on that because I'm not very good at speculating on commodity costs. But I don't think it would be, prohibitive for us to make this work. And it's a good question.
And last, I know for years there was a program somewhere in Nevada where hunters were allowed to donate, their elk or their deer or whatever to programs. Do you guys still have a program like that in place? A typical year we killed 10 to 20,000 animals, and a lot of the hunters aren't that anxious to necessarily eat all of it. I know for quite a while there was quite a substantial number that were donated to food programs around the state. Are you aware of any of those anymore?
Shane Piccini for the record. I believe that those still exist. A lot of those donations would go straight to our partner agencies in the communities, mostly probably rural. I don't recall of a situation where any animals have been delivered to our food bank out on USA Parkway. But I do know that some of our partner agencies still accept those donations.
Very good. If you have a chance to find out which ones those are, I'd like to be able to, frankly, tell some of the folks I represent, huge chunk of rural Nevada. And when there are situations like that, it'd be great to get some more protein for a lot of people. I'm sure to appreciate a good steak.
Shane Piccini for the record. I'd be happy to provide you with a list of those. Please look for that tomorrow. But I would be happy to get that for you.
Thank you. Much appreciated. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair.
Great. Thank you. Any other questions for our presenters? I'm not seeing any, so let's go to testimony in support of SB 370.
Thank you, Vice Chair. To testify in support on Senate Bill 370, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits, 892. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Hello, Sarah Sanchez, SarahSanchez. I am the director of the Carson Valley Community Food Closet in Gardnerville. I serve Douglas County. The Food Closet's been serving residents of Douglas County since 1989, and we provide an average of 700 people with supplemental food every month. So over the course of a year, that's over 230,000 meals to people in need. The food that we distribute comes from a variety of sources, but our biggest contributor is the Food Bank of Northern Nevada, and specifically when it comes to fresh produce. So thanks to our partnership with the Food Bank, we're a distributor of the Emergency Food Assistance Program. And then, like I mentioned, we get fresh fruits and vegetables each week for our recipients through our partnership with the Food Bank. While we glean from our local grocers, the produce we receive is typically at the end of its nutritional value and usability. So occasionally, local gardeners and small farms will make donations of fruits and vegetables to us, but nowhere on the scale that's needed to give to our clients. Not on a scale that's able to meet their nutritional needs, for sure. These new fruits and vegetables that we receive from the food bank, they go a long way to help offset all of our high sodium, high sugar products that we often receive and glean from grocery stores. So as a small rural food pantry, this connection is invaluable to us. The fresh new products that the food bank is able to procure and mobilize is something we can never do on our own. SB 370 would have an immense impact on helping our residents maintain access to nutrient-dense foods, and with the added benefits to our agriculture community, this bill, I think, is a win-win for residents of Northern Nevada. Thank you.
Once again, we are currently in support testimony on Senate Bill 370. If you have recently joined the call and would like to testify in support, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last three digits of 675. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Rebecca Stetson for the record, REBEKAHSTETSON. Madam Chair, thank you for the opportunity to testify in support of this bill today. I'm the Executive Director of Farmily and the manager of Flint Street Farm, both whom grow food that then gets directly donated to nonprofits that either prepare it for our houseless individuals or get it to food pantries to serve the food insecure in our areas. I also serve on the Governor's Council for Food Security, and this bill really, to me, gives an opportunity for us to highlight locally grown produce to get it to as fresh as possible and as local possible to the people who need it most. Thank you.
Once again, we are currently in support testimony on Senate Bill 370. If you have recently joined the call and would like to testify in support, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no more callers in support at this time.
All right. We will now start taking testimony in opposition to SB 370.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair. To testify in opposition on Senate Bill 370, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. As a reminder, we are currently on opposition testimony on Senate Bill 370. If you have recently joined the call and would like to testify in opposition, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in opposition at this time.
All right, thank you. We will move to neutral. Is there anybody on the Zoom who intends to give neutral testimony?
Chairman Scheibel, this is Jennifer Ott from the Department of Agriculture. I'd like to testify if that's okay.
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you so much. Jennifer Ott, the Director for the Department of Agriculture. I just wanted to thank the Chairman Donate and the presenters for bringing forth this bill. We are a proud partner of the food banks and food distribution entities in Nevada, and we feel this is really great solution for not only supporting our food banks, but supporting our farmers, ranchers, processors, and producers. And we thank you to the committee for hearing this, and I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your testimony. Now we'll go back to broadcast and ask if there is anybody on the phone lines to give testimony in the neutral position on SB 370.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair. To testify in neutral on Senate Bill 370, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. As a reminder, we are currently in neutral testimony on Senate Bill 370. If you have recently joined the call and would like to testify in neutral, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in neutral at this time.
Okay, thank you so much. Do the presenters have any closing remarks?
Shane Pitchney for the record. No, I am just really grateful for the opportunity for the committee to hear our bill, and we thank you for your time.
Well, we thank you for your time, and thanks to everybody who took the time to call in and share their opinions with us. At this point in time, we will conclude or close the hearing on SB 370. That takes us to the last item on our agenda. In case any of you are not aware, we have moved the work session to Thursday. We will not be doing a work session on any bills today. We will be taking next public comment.
Thank you, Chair. To provide public comment, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last three digits, 567. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Yes, for the record, my name is Emanuela Heller McNeilich, again, Vice President of Northern Nevada Beekeeping Association. I was just following the last item on the agenda, the SB 370, about food insecurity. And I just wanted to state that a lot of backyard beekeeping apiaries significantly contribute to food security in rural areas and also in cities. So a lot of people, especially during this pandemic, now started to grow their own food in the backyard, and taking away pollinators would not be very productive. Also, there are many projects in Reno, for example, the Reno Food System or other smaller private gardens who support local food banks that are also highly depending on pollinators provided by small backyard beekeeping folks. I just wanted to say that. So talking about food insecurity has to go along with pollinators, and this has to then be just made more attractive for backyard beekeepers. Thank you so much.
As a reminder, we are currently on public comment. If you would like to provide public comment, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no more public comment callers at this time.
All right, thank you so much for your help. I certainly hope that we will see a collaborative project between our backyard beekeepers and food security champions in the future. And with that, that brings our meeting to a close. We will be meeting again on Thursday. Until then, we are you want to say something, Senator Hansen? You're leaning forward like you do. Okay, just getting ready to shut your computer. Understood. In that case, we are adjourned.